It is NBA draft day, and Cooper Flagg is going to be the top pick in the NBA draft by the Dallas Mavericks. And everybody loves Cooper Flagg. Let's start out, just give you a taste. Let's play shot number one. Everybody loving on Cooper Flagg.
This is how I look at Cooper Flagg. If LeBron James and Kevin Garnett had a baby, you get Cooper when why I say that is because when you think about LeBron James, you think of a complete basketball player.
Right? When you got somebody with that kind of potential and they're white and you are in America, you keep that dude. You keep him. I'm telling you right now, with my black self, I'm the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. I ain't thinking about drafting somebody else. I'm not thinking about moving Cooper Flagg. I'm grabbing Cooper Flagg. He's the number.
And to your question about Cooper Flagg, I happen to think he's the best freshman player that Duke's ever had. That might not mean he's the most talented. Grant Hill and Kyrie Irving were incredibly talented players when they came out of Duke. Grant came out as a senior, and Kyrie left after his freshman year after being injured for most of the season. But no other freshman produced as an 18-year-old the way Cooper Flagg did across the board.
That's a bad dude. That's a bad guy. What's up, baby?
How you? Good.
Yeah?
Good, yeah.
You excited?
I'm excited, man.
I know that's right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Do what you do, man.
Thank you.
Love watching you play, man.
Steve Kim, welcome back to the show. Steve, Cooper Flagg is going to go number one in the NBA draft tonight, and he's going to be welcomed to the NBA with open arms. Everybody's hoping he's a big deal. Everybody hopes that he adds something to the NBA. There's not a lot of hate being directed at Cooper Flagg, and I compare that to the hate that's been directed at Caitlin Clark for the past 2 years. What do you think the difference is? Why is Cooper Flagg, the great white hope of basketball, being warmly accepted, and Caitlin Clark being met with so much hostility?
You know what the difference is. Come on, let's not beat around the bush. We're fearless here. There, excuse my grammar, ain't no hating ass Shaniquas. And you nailed it right on the head. Who is more derisive, more backbiting, and more derisive and hateful of women in the workplace or in social settings than other women? Add to the fact that these women are incredibly spiteful, jealous with a sense of entitlement. What else did you think you're going to get? And so speaking of white American players, Larry Joe Bird, the legend, you know who the most, I would say, impactful words of praise come from when it comes to him? And I've watched all the videos. I still study it. Black players. Black players in that era probably praised Larry Bird more than anybody. And I look back at this game that he played. I think it was in the 84 or 85 season. He scored 60-some-odd points at the University of New Orleans because the Hawks played a couple of games there. And Larry Bird's literally hitting the most impossible 30-footers I've ever seen in my life. The ones that were celebrating the most were the Atlanta Hawks bench players. It's a famous scene. And those guys, they always say that Larry Bird's probably the coldest white guy, and they literally say he's one of the greatest players ever. They never really bring up race. All there is praise, which is in stark contrast to a certain player that plays in Indiana.
All right, Steve, let's go a cut deeper. There's no insecurity among black male basketball players. They're not threatened by Cooper Flagg. They don't feel like their legacy is being diminished by welcoming Cooper Flagg into the NBA family. Black women, there's insecurity as it relates to white women. Lesbian women, there's insecurity as it relates to heterosexual women. Is those dynamics in terms of the level of confidence that, hey, the NBA, great tradition of black players, the league is super successful. They can point to Bill Russell and players in the Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain. Kareem, they built this league. Michael Jordan took it to the highest level. And so maybe it's just a sign of the security that black basketball players have, that they're not hating on Cooper Flagg.
Well, I think that's part of it, but the cynical nature of me says, there's also a part of these guys' mind who says, wow, if Cooper Flagg really becomes the great white hope, that means I could take even more days off. I can even load manage more days. And if this white guy wants to play every game and carry the league, and then no one will talk about us taking 2 days off on a 3-day road trip, win-win situation for us. But Jason, to go even deeper than what you said about the dynamic of the players and how they feel about one another, I sent you a couple of videos last week. There are literally videos on TikTok and all these other social media outlets where black women, not players, but black women are literally lecturing other black men. We have to stand up for Angel Reese. You cannot cheer for Caitlin Clark. This is more than just a sports or basketball issue. Angel Reese is your sister, your mother. And I'm thinking to myself, really? It's really, but that's the deep-seated insecurity and feelings that is harbored by some of these people.
There's no question about it. So just imagine if the NBA was dominated by black men who put weaves in their hair to put them in a ponytail, blonde weave, and wearing fake eyelashes and putting on makeup and using certain creams to lighten up their skin. Maybe they'd feel differently. Maybe if they were running around with that level of insecurity and cultural appropriation of Cooper Flagg and white men. It's a fascinating situation as it relates to just how warmly he's being welcomed. Do you expect, Steve, for Cooper Flagg to live up to the hype? Do you think he's going to be a transcendent NBA player? And maybe not year one, but just in 2 or 3 years, do you think he's going to be a big deal?
Well, on your first point, I know you're being facetious about the weaves and all that other stuff, but nail polish is now becoming a thing in that league. So just be careful. Again, giving them an inch. Now, in terms of Cooper Flagg, I found those comments interesting because, Jason, let me go back to this. The last 2 players I really looked at, and I knew from day one of their college career, which ended after 1 season, was Carmelo Anthony in 2003, and I believe it was Durant in 2007, 2008. I remember watching a lot of their games saying these guys are going to be Hall of Famers. You could just absolutely see it. When I saw Melo lead the Orange and Jim Boeheim to his only title, I said that guy, from the day he steps on an NBA floor, will score at least 25 points a game for a decade. Durant, with that length and that impossible body physics that he has, I said that guy is going to be a monster scorer from day one. And I get the sense that both of them had a little bit more athleticism. That's the one thing I worry about Cooper Flagg. I don't think this is going to be Danny Ferry. I really don't. The question is going to be, will he be a Grant Hill? Now, I saw the Grant Hill comparison from a guy that knows, Jay Billis. Here's the difference with Grant Hill as a freshman. People forget about this, and they don't, but he came in as a true freshman on a team that was senior or upperclassman heavy. The likes of Bobby Hurley and Christian Laettner, I believe, were juniors when he came in, and he was basically the 3rd or 4th option. Grant Hill, if it wasn't for that ankle or injury in Orlando, I think is a top 20 player of all time. I don't know if he has that type of ability. Now, with the way the game is played today, more spaced out, more offense, easier to get to the hole, right? I think the bust rate is very low for Cooper Flagg. The question is just how high is that ceiling? That's my question.
You know, I hate to lean into a stereotype and be, kind of obvious. I think the obvious comparison is he going to be Christian Laettner? Christian Laettner was as good a college basketball player as I saw up close in my prime, because even Magic Johnson, 1978, 79, I was just a kid. And Magic was great. Larry Bird, they were both great in college. I was just a kid. Christian Laettner, to me, had the best college career of the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to be a big deal in the NBA, and he was just pretty good. He was not a bust, but he was just pretty good. That's kind of what I don't know, that's kind of where I lean on Cooper Flagg. Is he going to be Christian Laettner, who, probably in his best year averaged 20 points a game? I'm going to have to look this up. But, good player, not a bust, but not transcendent.
So in other words, is Laettner the floor and is Grant Hill the ceiling? I think that's very fair. Now,
he's not going to be Grant Hill.
Well, okay, we'll see about that. We'll see. We'll see. Now, Jason, I will support your argument. If you take away Kareem and Bill Walton, who I think Kareem did not play as a freshman. They weren't allowed to back then. I would argue that Christian Laettner had one of the top 3 4-year college careers in the history of the NCAA. Every year they went to the Final Four. They won it twice. He was the player of the year. He had some of the greatest games. He hit some of the most iconic shots. He's on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball in terms of achievement. The issue with him was he was a 4, and this was really found out during the practices with the Dream Team, and I've read this. He found out at the next level, his inability to finish at the rim and play above the rim was a real issue. He got a lot of shots blocked. Okay, now in today's game, he'd be a stretch 4. And one thing he could do, and this was witnessed during the LSU game when he played Shaq, he absolutely riddled Shaq just by going outside and popping in 18-footers. In today's game, where the big men are now allowed to roam free, Christian Laettner would be a better player today with this style than he was back in the 90s. And I believe Laettner played about 14 years, bounced around a lot, made 1 All-Star team. So when people say Laettner was a bust, Jason, I vehemently disagree with that.
Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.